Whoa, this took way longer than expected. With Jedi Survivor coming out in a few short month! Damn! And here I was worried about getting this video out before the new game launched. I swear something crazy is just happening with my upload schedule and game releases this year. I'm just like fucking baffled now. Anyway, as I was saying before, Jedi Survivor isn't coming out for another month, and good on Respawn, the poor bastard company is constantly getting its teeth kicked in by the higher-ups. So I'm happy to see them get the opportunity to push back a project in order to get to put the finishing touches on their project. I'm really happy for them. But anyways, times two, with Jedi Survivor coming out in a month or so, I decided to make a video on The Force Unleashed 2. Why? Well, that is a good question, but by the end of that video, I said that it really wasn't that great of a hype builder for Jedi Survivor, so I said I would make a video on Fallen Order to make up for it. Now hold on, this isn't one of those, oh I promised to make the video, it's an obligation sort of things. I was always going to talk about this game in some form or fashion, and the cards I was dealt just sort of led to this perfect little situation. Before we get started though, let me just say that Fallen Order is fucking phenomenal. It's an amazing 3D Metroidvania set in a space setting that we already know and love, and it's intertwined all of this with a killer action-based battle system inspired by the Souls games. It's all like a match made in heaven. If you have any interest in Fallen Order, pal, just go ahead and get it. Especially if it's on sale, this game is just really good. And I just blew my load before the video even got started. I swear this has never happened before. Yeah, I'm not sure how to transition away from that, so anyways, times 3! Jedi Fallen Order was conceived when the developers over at Respawn were working on a new action-based game with sword combat. When some boys from Disney popped in and they were like, hey, you want to add some Star Wars spice to that? And Respawn's like, oh shit, homie. So the team went straight to work, trying to create the Star Wars game of their little nerd dreams, while a bunch of Disney-branded fun police stayed behind to make sure every bit of it could, quote-unquote, fit into the Star Wars canon. I'll be real, my Star Wars-loving heart would love to have that job, but every time I hear about Disney's Council of Star Wars Canon, I just imagine a bunch of Reddit mods with a name tag that says shit like Darth Kevin the Lover, taking a rubber stamp and denying every bit of the leftovers of Force Unleashed 3 and 1313. How do you sleep at night, lover boy? Well, after a pretty interesting development, the team had something they were extremely proud of, and they were super excited to show it off to the fans at the official Star Wars convention. And for Star Wars fans, I'd say the crowd was pretty positive.
Is this after Last
Ryan
Jedi?
Johnson fucked my mom and I liked
There's
it!
no minorities in space.
Why is he one of them red-headed
Is
liberals?
Thrawn's Luke's stepdaddy?
Oh, I hope he gets a slave Leia outfit.
Oh, bullshit! I know y'all are thinking it! And then the game finally came out and took the world by storm, with great review scores and tons of sales that finally taught the management of EA that single-player games are still viable in this day and age. Why the fuck was that ever a question? As mentioned before, this game is a Metroidvania, which puts it right in the same genre as Metroid and, well, Castlevania. This means that the levels and world are for the most part fairly open, with more and more areas and items being accessible to the player either through power-ups earned throughout the journey, or neat little tricks if the player is skilled enough. The game also adds in some more complex fighting mechanics that makes the player actually stop and think about how to proceed, as most of the lower level enemies can still get in a good pot shot or two even on a fully upgraded player. So they had to pay attention or maybe just spam the freeze move, which is what I did in my first playthrough where I for some reason just didn't want to block. Please don't do that. By the way, it works, but I promise you, it's miserable. Learn the timing and get your patterns down, it's so much funner that way. In fact, I even got to the point where I forgot I could even use the freeze move, which is probably exactly what the developers wanted me to do as I got better and better. Throughout the game, you will gain a variety of different moves to use with your saber, including some of the usual strikes and tricks we often see in Star Wars, while also adding in some of the lesser seen ones, or should I say lesser seen on a Jedi. Yep, a double-bladed saber. I always head to Dathomir ASAP just so I can get to use this puppy. However, it's not like a strength upgrade to your base saber. The double saber is more useful when fighting groups of enemies, as it allows you to hit and block multiple targets and laser blasts, with the downside of also lowering the damage of the saber. Kinda sucks considering none of the other double-bladed opponents we fight have this drawback and get to use their double blades to their fullest. But hey, I respect this idea a lot. I think it's probably for the best to have the single blade and double blade be more of a stance thing than just a straight upgrade. It adds a lot more depth to the combat that way. Now in this game you play as Cal, a Jedi Padawan who never got to complete his training due to Order 66, which has left some mental scars that have left his ability to use the Force quite damaged. Now he goes throughout the game remembering how to use his old abilities, including all the ones we know and love, but his use of the abilities are more quick and explosive that tires him out pretty bad. He lacks the certain finesse that a lot of other Jedi, especially someone like Starkiller, has. And this is by the team's own admission is what they wanted for Cal. It's hard to have a Souls-like if you can effortlessly throw every obstacle away, though that never stopped me from trying, especially against these assholes. Purge Troopers, the only group in the Empire that doesn't just like killing Jedi, they straight up get off on it. Ugh. The two stick guys can especially go to hell with that BS combo. As I was saying though, the team made it a story element that Cal is just a Padawan with a lot of mental and physical scars, so his connection for the most part of the game is fractured. Even when he gets back to where he was before the Purge and is able to do some of the crazy Force stuff we're used to, he's still only at a lower level comparatively, so make sure you brush up on your saber skills. Ironic how I joke all the time about Force users not really even needing the saber to be a real threat, but my favorite Star Wars game has a protagonist who for the most part relies on it. Part of me wishes Cal could pull off a lot of the other crazy Force stuff we see out of other Star Wars characters, but I have to just remind myself that this is what Respawn wanted Cal to be, and the story in the game wouldn't work too well if Starkiller or someone else similar was in the role. This new game does seem to let Cal go all out with the Force a little bit more, even letting him use a blaster, so I'm pretty excited to see how that works out. Now Cal may have some trouble when it comes to the usual Force powers, but he has a few unique ones to him that are pretty interesting, such as his Force Sense, which allows him to view memories related to a certain object. Story-wise, it's a pretty interesting ability for him to have, as a trait of Cal is how much of his own memories that he has repressed. But it's also amazing in a gameplay sense, as he's able to touch any object and view a lot of the environmental storytelling of each of the different worlds he travels through, giving him and the player more insight into what's going on while also filling out these little side story books, which is pretty neat. Cal is also joined in this adventure by a little droid named BD-1, who is not just a companion to Cal, but his map, health dispenser, and basically Batman-styled utility belt of different powers, to help Cal stay in the fight or travel to a previously unreachable area. BD-1 can also scan different objects to get more details similar to how Cal's Force Sense works, alongside being able to find different seeds to help fill up the little garden the captain of their ship keeps. All of this is really cool, but my only problem with BD-1 is how real time he is. I know, strange wording, but what I mean is that BD-1 is always moving around and exploring with the player, so sometimes he gets mixed up on whether to follow your commands or just keep trying to scan the thing he wants to scan. There were a few times in this game where I'd ask him for a health stim and he'd just do nothing, which is kinda bad, cause if I'm asking for it, it's probably cause I need it, BD. Now, this issue isn't really all that present in this game, it really only happens once in a while. Such as in situations where I see BD run off to scan something, so I follow him so I can tell him to scan, and instead he just kind of walks away instead. I think what's going on here is that BD is programmed to follow and help the player with a variety of things, and if too many of those things are in an area, his hierarchy of things to do may be different from what the player wants him to do. Again, this won't really be that prevalent of an issue for 99% of the game. It just leads to either an awkward interaction once in a while, or maybe I had to ask BD for health like 10 times in a row. Seriously, BD, get the AirPods out, man, I'm about to die here! But hey, it's kinda cute that he hums the Star Wars theme whenever he hacks into droids, so, you know, that's cute. Kinda fucked up when he mentions that hacking other droids kinda bothers him, but hey, the humming's cute. Cal can use rest spots to regain health and his force power while also upgrading his abilities. Though be careful, as healing at a rest spot will respawn enemies, which is either a bit of a problem or an excuse to earn some more experience. Whatever fits your grind set, I guess. Cal is great at different forms of traversal as you'd expect from a Jedi. He's a good swimmer, and later on he's even able to double jump. But what bothers me is when he climbs things. And I don't mean him climbing bothers me, but when he gets into situations like this, ow! Dude, have you ever worked with rock or metal like that? That should have sliced his fingers clean off. He's also able to squeeze through a lot of tight little corridors, and I do mean a lot of tight little corridors. I know this is a loading thing, but man, it feels like the game does this sometimes just to have him do it. Like, this is the same game with some of the most amazing real-time transitions that I've ever seen. Like, literally, this one makes my jaw drop every time I see it. It's beautiful. So all these little corridors are just kind of weird. But hey, speaking of my jaw dropping, this game is just plain beautiful. A lot of the different planets and areas are really well designed, making them fun to play through and to just sit back and look at. I mean, really, the origin tree is like exactly what my happy place looks like. A giant primordial tree with pretty much an entire ocean and islands inside. God, that's like my favorite thing ever. From Kashyyyk to Dathomir, it's just so cool to explore all these different planets in Star Wars that we don't get to see as often as we wish. Even Ilum is here, which is just awesome. Man, if you're a Clone Wars fan like me, this game is like a wet dream. And all the new planets they added to this game are just as amazing and in depth with their own lore as the returning ones. It's great. We'll get into all that in the story section, but man, what this game introduces and adds to the story of what the Force is to people other than the usual Jedi and Sith is just so interesting. Like, sure, we've seen the Night Sister stuff before, but I'm always keen to see how they use it like a magic system in a usual fantasy setting. And the Zepho who are introduced here have their own lost ancient civilization that seem to be powered by the Force like it's a battery. That's just so fucking cool. Music-wise, I mean, it's Star Wars. We all know how good of a track record this series has with music. Especially when it comes to Order 66, which this game does delve into a little bit. You can probably guess the tracks that make a return. Personally, I felt the prequel score could be a little overwhelming in that one specific set piece. But hey, that's probably how it's supposed to feel. It does feel a lot like somebody just shouting, "Hey, do you remember the movie?" But you know, you're kind of supposed to remember the movie right now, so I'll let it slide. It's just really one section and it's not that big a deal. And with that, boys, it's time to talk story and characters. Skip to the time on screen if you wish to remain spoiler free. I definitely recommend it if you haven't played this game before. As a Star Wars fan or not, the game has a lot of cool moments and character beats that will make you care a lot about Cal's little found family. It's a really sweet story that lets the characters tackle a bunch of messed up stuff and learn that it's okay not to be perfect. Everybody's got problems and it's easier to take them on with the people you can trust. Hey, speaking of problems, what the fuck's up with me making people skip half the video? This is just getting ridiculous. The story starts with our protagonist Cal, listening to some... Is that Mongolian throat singing? Alright man, whatever floats your Venator, I guess? Oh, maybe that was too soon. Well, anyway, Cal is told by his boss that him and his buddy Prof have a new assignment, leading to the two of them climbing up and around the scrapyard onto the hull of a Venator, where they find an intact Jedi starfighter. Prof starts talking to Cal about the Jedi and how the Empire's wrong and they probably weren't all that bad, but Cal hushes him up quick before somebody hears. Look at the fucking amount of probe droids around here. I bet you can't shit without one of those things going right beside you. Prof is excited though, as this could lead to a lot of moolah, meaning Cal can finally get off this rock and find his destiny. Cal isn't so sure, saying that he may not even want to leave the scrap heap. But Prof gives it to him straight, that this place sucks and that Cal is young, he doesn't need to be wasting his life here. He needs to find his destiny, but as the two of them are speaking, something goes wrong with the cutter, leaving the piece of the ship they are standing on to start to fall apart, seemingly sending Prof to his death. But before that can happen, Cal uses his Force abilities to save him, revealing to Prof that he is a Jedi who's been hiding here on the scrap heap. Prof is mixed about all this, as he knows that if Cal hadn't blown his cover, he would have been dead, But since he did blow his cover, now he's in danger. He wants to help his friend, but it's like Cal says.
Don't mention it. I mean it.
Cal tells Prof that he plans on leaving soon before taking a little rest. Cal wakes up to see Prof walking off, so he gives chase, but soon loses him behind a locked door, turning around to see that he's back on a Venator's ship. He's surprised by his old master, who tells him to only trust in the Force, before waking up right beside Prof on the train, only to see that they have been stopped by Imperial troopers who are looking for a Jedi. Oh man, I wonder what tipped them off. Cal is readying his saber to fight if he needs to, but Prof stands forward, seemingly to give up Cal to the Empire before reassuring his friend by instead giving a speech about how much the Empire doesn't care about its people. And he's immediately proven right. Cal tries to strike at the Inquisitor who kills his friend, but he's outmatched and barely escapes into another train. Man, this guy can really take a hit. Ooh! Ouch. As he tries to escape the Empire, he's assisted by a nearby ship, helping him escape the Inquisitor's grasp. The two people who saved Cal are an ex-Jedi named Sierra and the ship's captain, Greezy Money, baby! The two of them explain to Cal that they want to rebuild the Jedi Order, and to do so they need a holocron locked inside a temple built by the Zepho. The Zepho are an ancient race of Force wielders that Sierra's master, a man by the name of Cordova, was really interested in. They need a Jedi to help find the holocron, and Sierra can't do it since she claims to have fully cut herself off from the Force. So they went looking for a Jedi more capable, and they ended up with this traumatized Padawan. Yeah, but hey, you work with what you got. The holocron contains information on the locations of all the Force-sensitive children in the galaxy, which brings up a few questions. One is, how did the Zepho 1,000 years ago create a holocron with information about the locations of children in the current year? And of course the second one being, where is Cal's new order in the movies if this is supposed to be canon? Well, we can at least answer one of those questions by the end of this story, so how about we continue? As Cal explores the planet where the temple is located, he meets up with BD-1, a droid owned by Master Cordova, who now has all the old Master's information about the temples locked inside his head, but he needs to scan certain objects in order to access the playback of the information. So Cal and BD team up to explore other planets Cordova researched, including heading to 3 other Zepho temples. As they venture through the galaxy, they meet up with a lot of interesting people. On Dathomir, they meet the last remaining Night Sister named Marin, who mistakenly believes the Jedi to be responsible for the extinction of her people, and as such is not a very big fan of Cal. But she's not the only one on the planet, as this hooded dude is also around, but Cal isn't really sure on what his deal is yet or why the Night Sister isn't after him. On Kashyyyk, they meet up with Saw Gerrera, who's trying to help free the Wookiees from the Empire, while also giving Cal the chance to drive a fucking AT-AT best tank level ever! Later on in the game, they actually meet up with a group of bounty hunters named the Haxon Brood, who start chasing after Cal and BD due to Grease owing them a lot of money. I mean a lot of money. And then of course we have the 2 Inquisitors from before, the second and ninth sister, who constantly stand in between Cal and his goal, as the holocron could lead them to more potential Inquisitor candidates. The second sister in particular is very interested in Cal and his new master Sierra, as she was once Sierra's Padawan but became an Inquisitor when Sierra gave her and some other younglings up to the Empire. This causes a rift between Sierra and Cal, but they still need to keep going on their mission to find the holocron, to at least keep it out of the Empire's hands. This eventually leads them back to Dathomir, where Cal can finally make it to the Zepho temple after not being able to get there earlier. Cal is warned of the dark power of the temple, but he still heads inside since it holds the key to the holocron. He makes his way through the temple where he touches his hand to a certain spot, which at first seems to do nothing, but as Cal meditates, he's soon transported back to his master's Venator during Order 66, where we see a young Cal as he tries to escape death at the hands of the clones whose same hands were encouraging him just a few minutes earlier. As he and his master try to run away, they make it to an escape pod, but his master sacrifices himself to protect Cal, who in turn unleashes a large amount of force to allow them both a chance to escape. As his master dies, he hands his saber to Cal before passing on. Cal then wakes up in a foggy room where the ghost of his master, oh by the way, whose name is Gerald DePaul, I don't know why I haven't mentioned that yet, but yeah. A ghost of Master DePaul appears and taunts Cal into fighting, which ends with Cal impaling his blade into his master, with DePaul telling him that it was his fault that he died, that Cal killed him. This makes Cal extremely upset, to the point where BD has to wake him up from the nightmare, where he then notices that he destroyed his lightsaber in his anger. Cal leaves the temple empty-handed, with the stranger once again showing up to talk to Cal, with Cal just being completely done with the situation, and he demands that the stranger reveals himself. The stranger is revealed to be a fallen Jedi who escaped the Purge, much like Cal did, but he ended up being stranded on Dathomir. Cal recognizes this man to be the one who controls the Night Brothers he's been facing throughout Dathomir, as he learned about an outsider taking control of the brothers using his memory powers around the planet. The fallen Jedi wants Cal to join him, as he claims to have gained great power from the darkness of Dathomir, but before Cal has the chance to tell him to fuck off, the Night Sister appears again, pissed off at the fallen Jedi for allying with Cal, as he was the one that told her that the Jedi were the ones who killed her people. This leads to some zombies being sicked on Cal and the fallen Jedi, with Cal needing to make a hasty retreat. He makes it back to the ship where Sierra says they should head to Ilum, where all Jedi are chosen by their saber crystal. Cal and BD make it through the harsh weather of the planet, which Cal believes to have something to do with the Force. After a grueling trek that reveals that the Empire have started mining on Ilum for crystals, Cal is eventually led to a new crystal that gives him some newfound hope, until it shatters in his hands. Yeah, Cal's done. He believes he's failed everything and everyone, and really, who can blame him right now? But before he drowns in despair, BD comes in to cheer up Cal with a message left by Cordova that explains that failure is never the end. It's only just another bump in the road. It's then revealed that BD purposely had his memories locked away so that he could be used to test whoever seeks the holocron. This news takes Cal aback, as this means that BD had sacrificed everything just to help him. BD says he's fine with the sacrifice, as it led him to meet his new best friend, which gives Cal the confidence to take his shattered crystal and the broken blade of his master, alongside his new master's blade to form his own, which could even split into two separate sabers, which is awesome! I wish he could actually fight with the two sabers at all times, or at least make it so they could use separate colors. But hey, this is still cool, and with newfound confidence, Cal returns to the Dark Temple, staring down his master and saying that he'll never forget him or what happened, but he's moving on. This answer is enough to satisfy the old ghost and the Dark Temple, allowing Cal access to the fallen Jedi's chamber. But before that, he gets a chance to speak with Merrin and clear some things up regarding the extinction of her people, who weren't killed by a Jedi, but a cyborg going sicko mode. They realize that they have a lot in common, seeing as they are quite possibly the last of their respective people, as well as having a common enemy in the fallen Jedi, who is called Malicos. Again, probably should have mentioned that earlier, but hey, whatever. Cal and Merrin come to an understanding and face Malicos together, finally opening the way to the key they need to open the temple holding the holocron. Merrin is happy for Cal having a chance to bring back his people, but she is sad that she may never have the chance to bring back her own. Cal talks to her about his friend Prof, who told him to go out and find his destiny, and this inspires her to do the same, joining Cal's crew as their 6th member. Wait, you only see 5 people here? Oh well, the 5th member is actually this little rat thing you have the option of picking up. He's got no real impact on the story, he's just a little cutie chilling on the ship and shitting in Grease's food, which is gross, but also hilarious. The crew's journey is finally reaching its end, and they're all excited save for Merrin. Merrin is unsure about the mission. She just learned about the Empire from Cal, but even she realizes that maybe trying to gather all of these kids in one place could probably put them in danger of being discovered by the Empire. Cal and company assure her that this needs to be done in order to defeat the Empire, but Merrin is still unsure. Cal makes it to the temple where his journey truly began, and uses the key to open up a mirror on the other side of the room. As he places his hand on the mirror, he's given another vision. It starts with what seems to be the leader of the last remaining Zepho, warning others not to fall into the same mistakes that they did, before transitioning into a glimpse of the future with Cal leading the next generation of Jedi. And then, just as Merrin had warned him before, the Empire comes in and hunts down all of the children, capturing a few of them alongside Cal. The scene then turns dark for a second before showing Cal as an Inquisitor, where he then walks up to the mirror once again to show his future self to his present self on the other side. This causes Cal to destroy the mirror in a fit of rage, before noticing the holocron has appeared behind him. The vision has shook Cal a bit, but he's still dead set on his mission. But before he can leave, the second sister appears ready for another fight. Hold on, did she have to do that weird mud run thing to get up here and then squeeze through that cramped ass rock like Cal did? Or did she just fall through the top of the roof like Cal should've? Either way, the thought of her running up that muddy hill and just bitching the whole time is pretty funny to me. Cal swiftly defeats her once again, but makes the mistake of grabbing her lightsaber. His ability to read an object's memories bites him in the ass, as he now sees the full story of the second sister and what truly happened with her and Sierra. Cal wakes up to see the holocron gone, but now he fully understands the events of Sierra's past and he apologizes for the way he treated her. Sierra tells Cal that they all deal with the dark side and that nobody's perfect. Even now when she's cut off from the Force, she still feels that pull, that anger. She looks at Cal, who's now grown so much in his journey to find his destiny, and she feels it's finally time to knight him as a full Jedi, using the Inquisitor's saber to do it. Ooh, how symbolic. The crew flies off to the Inquisitor's main HQ as the second sister took the holocron there as Cal was in her nightmare. By the way, her name is Trilla. Yeah, I'm not sure what's up with me and names today. Anyway, Merrin uses her magic to help hide the ship and the pods containing Cal and Sierra as they fight through the Inquisitor's base. Sierra is a real badass fighting with that combo of saber and blaster, but she admits to Cal that this is pretty much just her falling back into the dark side. Which, you know, isn't a good thing, but damn, girl, is it working. Cal finally makes it to Trilla where they have a final confrontation. Cal wins and gets the holocron, but Sierra wants to finish this. She goes to Trilla and apologizes for everything. And after their conversation, Trilla finally starts to come around. But I'm afraid there's no saving her now, as a dark force steps into the room, which is revealed to be... Holy shit, this is great. And there is no chance of fighting here. Cal has to haul ass if he wants to survive. I love this. Vader is just a fucking monster compared to someone on Cal's level. Vader is just an unstoppable force. You can't beat him. You can't even damage him. If you spare a second to even turn around and look at him, you're gone. I love this so much. And what makes it even better is when Cal is finally out of there and he's like, oh, I'm safe, everything's fine. And then BAM! Vader is here again. Like, how the fuck did you even get in front of Cal? Genuinely, it doesn't make any sense, but that doesn't matter. Because Vader is like a spirit, a monster, a demon. Cal has fought a lot of different beasts, but Vader is a whole nother level. He'd be dead if it wasn't for BD sneaking around and shocking Vader's circuits. And then Sierra comes in and unleashes all her rage and anger that she's been keeping inside, and it holds Vader down for a second before he starts getting right back up, impressed by her anger. Cal snaps her out of it, trying to make her remember that she chooses who she wants to be. This gives Vader a chance to strike, but Sierra uses a force bubble. Anyway, Vader starts to carve through it, and he's about to end them both. But Cal uses the force to cause water to flood into the room, letting him, BD, and Sierra escape, and leaving Vader to hold up the weight of an entire ocean. Yeah, Palpatine made that suit great for constantly keeping his apprentice miserable, increasing his dark side power. But as like a normal suit, it's fucking awful, and it's basically useless against basic elements like sand, electricity, water. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that Vader is holding back an ocean! Cal tries to swim his friends to safety, but he passes out, leaving Merrin to jump in and save them. The crew now has the holocron in hand, and it's time to decide what to do with it. Yeah, the answer's pretty obvious, isn't it? Cal destroys the holocron, keeping the children forever safe from the Empire, and finally answering the question of where his order was in the original trilogy. Though now we all know those kids die in the sequel trilogy, so... Fallen Order's story is amazing. From the themes of nobody's perfect and you don't have to let your past define you, and of course how you can always go out and find what the world has in store to you, to the characters, they're all just great, and I love watching them interact with each other and watch them learn to grow from their time with each other. Cal is amazing, and I love how his connection to the Force grows as he faces all of his trauma head on, of course with the support of the people around him. I love watching him start to grow more and more confident as he really struck out into the galaxy instead of rotting away in sadness on that rainy scrap heap. And you know, he still fails and he gets close to giving up, but with the support of the people around him, he gets right back into the fight, stronger and stronger every time. But it's not just a one-way street. The crew of the Mantis, which by the way is the ship's name, I know, I really hate myself right now too. But seriously, as Cal opens up, so do the people around him. And he has a positive effect on all of them. And of course this all started with Prof. He's only in the game like 5 minutes, but he really is the MVP of the whole thing. He's the one who tells Cal how it is, and he teaches Cal the lesson that Cal goes on to teach others, and that's awesome. Sierra has been through a lot, and she doesn't really trust herself much, and she definitely didn't trust herself to open up to Cal about what really happened. But when the truth came out, it really affected her relationship with Cal, and she feels bad about not being upfront with him earlier. But even if he's mad at her, she still stays right by his side, mentoring and doing her best to guide him when he needs. She's not trying to control him, she even says as much when her and Cal disagree about Saul. She's just always there to try and support him. Sierra's constantly fighting her negative feelings, trying her best to be better for Cal, for Grease, for herself, and of course, for Trilla. Her mistakes are literally hunting them all down, but Sierra remains strong, trying to do what she believes is right. And when she fumbles, Cal is right there to help her out, and they bond over their trauma. They both got a lot of shit, but hey, at least they got each other. Grease, oh my god, Grease. I love this guy. He reminds me of so many people in my life. He's pretty much the old man of the group that had a long life he's gambled away, and he likes to complain a lot, but he's just so happy to have a sort of family now with Cal and Sierra. I love that when we meet him the first time, he was watching Cal sleep, and then he calls him a weirdo for talking in his sleep. Like, he wasn't just watching him, like, what the fuck? And then at the end, we see him watching Cal sleep again, but this time it's to make sure he's alive. That's just so sweet. Yeah, he bitches and he moans a lot, and the closest thing he does to leaving the ship is taking care of the garden that Cal brings him seeds for. But I love Grease, he's great. I love when Cal and Sierra start fighting, the first thing he does is try to figure out how to stop it. He talks to Cal and Cal's like, "It's none of your business." And Grease says that, you know, it is kind of his business. The two of them are his family now. Before them, he only cared about himself. Grease is probably one of my favorite Star Wars characters, and he's not the only one that this game introduced. BD-1 is fucking goated. I love this droid. It's probably my favorite in Star Wars. He's literally designed to be like a puppy on your shoulder, and I think that's perfect. He's just a kind-hearted droid who sacrificed his own mind to help Cal on his journey. He's great. Him and Cal are just so in sync. Cal's about the only one who can actually understand him, and I love how he's always cracking jokes to Cal, or how Cal has a dedicated button to make sure BD is okay. It's little stuff like that that makes their friendship so organic and believable. My only problem is that I just hate his official color scheme. It really should have been the black and yellow premium skin. The base one is just too damn boring looking. Plus, BD looks like a bee. That's just cute and funny. Like, why the fuck did you go with white and red? I also love Marin. She's awesome. I genuinely don't think we get enough of the Night Sisters, and her story is a very interesting one, as she grew up all alone and was manipulated by pretty much the only other person on the planet. No offense to the Night Brothers, I just get more of a servant type feel from their relationship to her. I love how she interacts with the crew after she joins up. You don't get a lot of interactions since you're already in the endgame, but I love how Grease is just so scared of her, but then the two of them get on at least sociable terms in the short time they're together. Speaking on that, I love how her introduction to the rest of the crew kind of reads like Cal bringing his alt-goth girlfriend home, and Sierra and Grease are just really unsure of her. I know that's not how it's supposed to be interpreted, but man, it makes the cutscene a lot funnier if you read it that way. I also like how she's the one who tries to push up against the crew's plan, since she's not as caught up in it as they are and can really step back to really think of what the consequences could be. Merrin is just great. She's genuinely like one of my favorite Star Wars characters now, alongside BD and Grease. I wish we got more time with her alongside the crew, but hey, at least if you revisit other planets with her on her ship, she'll have a few funny things to say. Trilla is a great antagonist. She pretty much represents the sins of the past chasing our characters all over the galaxy, but she is just as much a victim of the Empire as the crew of the Mantis. I love her interactions with Cal, as she just knows exactly how to get under his skin and poke him in all the right places. She genuinely drives a rift between Sierra and Cal that lasts for a while, but in the end, Sierra is able to bring her back from that dark place. It's too late, of course, but hey, at least she died as Trilla and not the second sister. I guess the only other character of real note to talk about is Malicos. Saul is just a cameo and Darth Vader is just a set piece. Cordova is very interesting, but he's really more of a plot device. I don't know, but he seems cool from all the logs we find of his. Malicos, though, is extremely interesting to me. He was betrayed like Cal during Order 66, which left him stranded on Dathomir, where he began looking into the dark side. But what makes him really interesting to me is the conclusion he comes to. He realizes that the Jedi Order is something that continuously fails and probably shouldn't be brought back again, and that maybe introspection through both the dark and light sides without being consumed by either could be a better way forward. Which, you know, he isn't technically wrong. A big plot point in Star Wars is how much the Jedi Order and the Sith Order, were just a bunch of failures. Hell, in some of the trash scripts from the sequels, they would have featured Rey calling out Luke about the so-called balance of the Force, when eliminating one side isn't really balance. I mean, it was a dark side temple that seemed to help Cal get over his trauma the most. Malicos seems to have the right idea, it's just too bad that he's a lying, murderous asshole who's been manipulating both Cal and Merrin to fit his goals. Seriously, he goes from trying to help Cal and convincing him that he can be his teacher to straight up admitting that he was the one who sicked Merrin and the Night Brothers on him in the first place. Like when Merrin summons and orders the zombies to attack him and a defenseless Cal, he tells them to run away to safety while he holds them off. But if you turn around after the cutscene, he's fucking gone and left the zombies to all pile up on Cal. This guy really could have been a really interesting main villain in a different game. Like maybe he's super helpful through the whole game, but he's doing some weird shit on the side, and then he reveals himself at the end as a sort of twist villain. Not what they went for here, and that's fine. I just think it's crazy to have a villain who ends up being sort of right in the end. I think that's pretty fun, but probably wouldn't have fit too well with what Fallen Order was trying to go for. Actually, maybe it could have worked, but the story we got instead is more than okay. Hell, it really is fantastic. So I'm fine with him just being a side antagonist that just makes you think a bit. But not too much, as he is still just a giant asshole. I do have a complaint about some of the extra dialogue in this game. When moving around the Mantis, the characters may try to interact with Cal, but if you move too much during, or maybe if you're already on your way somewhere and don't stop as soon as you see the pop-up, Cal will tell them to just hold that thought and that interaction is now lost forever. Which is really dumb. I don't know why you guys handled it this way. Really though, I've never had this problem in any other game. I don't know why this system is the way it is. Like really? I can't just walk back and ask them? That interaction is just gone. Who made this? Whose idea was this? After beating the game, we get access to New Game Plus, which gives us some cool new content. For one, we get to dress Cal up like an Inquisitor like we saw in the Flash Forward, including giving him a red lightsaber of his own. You also get access to all the customization stuff you found already at the start of the game, which includes the other saber colors that I'm low-key mad weren't just hidden around the game like the ponchos, so I actually got a chance to use them. But hey, I can now. We also get access to combat challenges, though maybe you should do these in a completed file, and not the New Game Plus one, cause you get reset to level 1 and these things can be pretty challenging. Just like the name implies. Chubby, you really are a dumbass, you know that? You also get access to a simulation style thing where you can basically make your own boss battles or watch different enemies from different factions fight it out. This is actually really cool and can be used to help you practice against certain enemies you have a hard time with, or just create the ultimate showdown. I respect the decision to leave Vader out of this. I mean, technically, you could have had him like T'Pol, where you can't even damage him, but just not having him here is like a real power move on Vader's part.
Not even in your dreams, asshole.
My only real problem with New Game Plus is the fact that you can't skip cutscenes. I love them all, of course, but it would have been great to have the option for when it's like your second or third playthrough. Jedi Fallen Order is a phenomenal game. I don't care if you're a Star Wars fan, a Souls-like fan, or just some weirdo who's never played a game in his life. You have to play this game. The gameplay is great, the combat feels so smooth and fluid, with only a little hiccup here and there. The exploration is great, every planet is chock full of upgrades and scan logs. And a fucking dinosaur dog! I had better be able to fight and or pet that thing in the sequel. The story and characters are wonderful, and it's all just so compelling to see what happens next. Music's good, graphics good, art style good, laser sword good! This is probably my favorite Star Wars game. I know probably it's not the best. I'm sure KOTOR or something is fantastic, it's just that combat is... Look, I basically made myself like Xenoblade and I barely like half of that series. I really can't do that again. I just can't. Anyways, times 7! Oh! Fallen Order is fucking great. I can't wait for the sequel to go on sale. I straight up ain't paying $90, much less $70 for a game that will be on sale in like 2 weeks tops, boys. That's just me.